Hey guys, it's me, Vinny Lospinuso. I'm back with another vlog, and I want to try to get this down last night. However, because it was so late, I really wasn't able to. But, well, A's fans, you're not the only one who's dealing with this situation, because the people in Arizona, Phoenix, Glendale, Tempe, wherever, it looks like the Coyotes will be leaving there after nearly 3 decades of futility. And it's a real shame. Because yes, the Coyotes were never a very successful team. Yeah, they had a couple playoff appearances early on, but they were always really bad for most of my lifetime. They never sold out. They've dealt with so many financial issues, so many ownership changes, so many different instability. They were in Phoenix, then they went to Glendale, then they went to Tempe to play at Mall Arena in Arizona State University, which sat over what, like little under 5,000, and they couldn't even fill that up. Just it's an unmitigated disaster for the team and everything. It really is, and I'm not really shocked because you might be wondering, why are they moving now? Probably. Well, it's because last night the people of Tempe had a vote whether or not they would build a brand new stadium and like new apartment complexes in this place near the airport in the area that used to be a landfill. And that's it. They said no because they weren't going to dish out millions of dollars of taxpayer money to build a stadium for a team that doesn't draw well in the first place and has been bad for many, many years with bad ownership, bad leases, and everything else. When the Thrashers moved to Winnipeg, the league decided to hold and try to keep the Coyotes in Arizona as long as they possibly could. If anything, they probably went with the wrong team. They probably should have kept the Thrashers in Atlanta and moved the Coyotes over back to Winnipeg, where they were originally. But instead, the Thrashers went over to Winnipeg, and they've been a very successful team now. They've been way more successful ever since then. And now for the Coyotes, they've been bad. They've had like in the last 10 years, they've had 4 seasons with below 30 wins. Also, here's a little fun fact. Since the turn of the century, they've only had 3 seasons, 3, where they've had a record above 500. That's right, 3. 3 seasons. 3 of them. Unacceptable. Purely unacceptable. I don't care who you are. That is pathetic. Do not blame the fans here. These fans have dealt with an awful product for nearly 3 decades for most of their existence. Why should you blame them? Listen, why would you care in the first place? Why would you care in the first place if your team isn't doing well, your ownership doesn't care, they keep going from city to city? At some point in time, you got to pull the plug. Like, it's over. Now, I think this was botched in the very beginning. What places like Nashville or Tampa or Vegas had that, like Arizona or even Atlanta, couldn't, was that they've had positive ownership and they were very successful out of the gate. That is something that the Coyotes never did. Yeah, they made the playoffs here and there, but afterwards they never won a playoff series for a long time. And they were often really bad in terms of attendance. They never really promoted themselves well. No city, whether that's Phoenix or Tempe or Glendale, really welcomed them with open arms. The ownership change happened a lot. They filed bankruptcy in 2009. They only won the division 1 time in their entire existence there. They never made the cup. They only made 1 conference final. Only one time they ever made the final 8 in their entire existence. Forget Final Four. They didn't get into 8. Only happened once, too. There's been a very bad team. For my lifetime, when I think of the Coyotes, I think of them like I do like the Charlotte Hornets or the Bobcats, like during that same kind of part. Just an awfully run franchise. Or even the Browns, like those really terrible franchises. But at least with those two areas, they're never going to leave Cleveland or Charlotte. The Coyotes are going to leave the Phoenix area probably. And it's a shame too. Phoenix is number 5 in the nation in terms of population. They tried to make it work because of its high population, and it just couldn't. It just could not work. Eventually, I'll say this. It's probably the biggest failure of Gary Bettman's entire career. And he's been a tumultuous tenure, but he's been there for 30 plus years and he's gotten a lot of teams out of the gates. But the situation with the Coyotes is going to be his biggest failure. It is. And don't worry, he's already in the Hall of Fame. It's not going to hurt his Hall chances or anything. Don't worry, he's already good. But this is going to end up being his biggest failure for his career. They tried as hard as they can, as hard as they could, to keep the Coyotes in Arizona. And I feel for Coyotes fans. I really do. It's not their fault that the ownership has been terrible. It's not their fault. And with how bad the team has been for most of their existence, I can't blame people in Tempe for saying no. Like, going to give so much taxpayer money on an area that might have lots of methane gas content? No. No. Do not do that. And Footprint Center doesn't want them. Gila River doesn't want them. They're done. It's over. Down the toilet. At least with the A's, you could say, they were there for 50 years. They had lots of success, lots of successful teams, lots of playoff appearances, a lot of history there. What are the Coyotes left behind? Futility, being terrible, losing seasons, empty stadiums, being a joke of the league, people being angry the fact they're there because places like Quebec City, for instance, who have been begging for a team for ages to come back. You're telling me that the Coyotes wouldn't do better over in Quebec City? It's ridiculous. And I can't blame people in Quebec City for feeling that way, because I'd feel the exact same way if that was the case. People in Winnipeg were the same thing when the Jets left to Arizona, and then they got the Thrashers. So what's going to happen for the Coyotes now? Well, Phoenix didn't work, Glendale didn't work, and Tempe didn't work. What are you going to do? Go to Scottsdale? Go to Tucson? No, you're done. You are done now. They're done. They're done. They're done. The season that you saw for the Arizona Coyotes, where they played at Mullen Arena, finished second to last in the Central Division, only had like 24 wins. That is the last you will ever see of the Arizona Coyotes, their Kachinas, jerseys, and everything else. That is the end of the Arizona Coyotes, in my opinion. That is it. That is it for them. There are rumors about maybe the Hurricanes could leave Raleigh, or the Panthers could lead, Sunrise. Both stayed. Like, one stayed in Carolina, the other stayed in, in the Miami area. And both of them are in the conference finals. They're now both very well-run organizations, especially the Hurricanes. Meanwhile, the Coyotes, while those two continue to get better, the Coyotes seem to get worse and worse as time has gone on. They were not competitive. They were often really bad. They had botched rebuilding plans. They didn't have many stars at all. They didn't draw any fans. It was a disaster in the desert. Really. It really was. And again, the area is big enough to support all four teams, but the Cardinals have been fine. Suns have been successful. D-backs, but now it's over. It's over. You're not going to get out of this. They're done. Done. You don't come back after this. People in Tempe don't want you. They hate the ownership. They hate the leadership. so many cities would love to have an NHL team. Canada and US. And you can't blame people for feeling that way about the Coyotes. And the NHL tried as hard as they possibly could to make it work. But it didn't work. I mean, I could say I told you so, but I don't want to insult the other fans over there. Because they dealt with so much nonsense for years. There's fans, but there weren't enough of you. And I can't blame you for feeling that way. Because what the hell did the team give you in return? Yeah, they give you nice jerseys. But what else? Threats of relocation for years, terrible on-ice play, bankruptcies, ownership changes, disrespect towards fans. They've given you nothing. They gave you the superficial, but they never gave you the sentimental. That's what they gave you. Not trying to have Shane Doan maybe. Like how many stars were there really from the area? Yeah, you got Austin Matthews. He's a superstar. He's from Arizona. But, like, got nothing else. You got nothing else. They're done. They're kaput. Go on. Maybe one day the city of Tempe or Glendale or whatever could get an AHL team from somewhere. But I don't think they're going to get an NHL team anytime soon, if ever again, if I'm being honest. Now, doesn't mean it can't happen in the future. Atlanta, many people thought they wouldn't get it a third time, but there could be some rumors that if the NHL decides to expand again, Atlanta could get another team. They could. I wouldn't be shocked. The infrastructure changed since then. It's gotten even bigger into hockey. But Arizona, not for a long time. Not for a long time. So, we're talking about the Coyotes moving. But where are they going to move to? If they do move, and they said this would be done in like the number of weeks, so I don't see this happening for months. They're going to get it done quickly. But where do they go? Now, where do I personally want them to go? If I had it my way, I'd go to Quebec. I'd put them in Quebec. I'd move the Red Wings over to the Western Conference. I would align the divisions in which, you put the Lightning and the Panthers in the Metro, and then you'd put the Blue Jackets in. Would you? No, would you do that? Like, no, you'd put. Gotta think about this. You put you bring the Coyotes over to the Eastern Conference. So that means you move the Red Wings from the Atlantic Division over to the Central. Then you'd plop the and then you'd plop the Coyotes there, rename the Nordiques probably, and call it a day. You could do that, but they're not going to. You know why? Because the NHL doesn't really have much of an interest of going to a team in Quebec, unless Quebec is like the only place that wants a team. It's like when the Thrashers were going to move. Winnipeg was the only place that was really fighting for it. And they had an NHL-ready arena there. No one else was calling for it, so they went over to Winnipeg. Quebec City will only get a team if that's the situation. I don't see them getting a team if, like, so many other options are on the table. I just can't. But then where will they actually go? I mentioned Atlanta. Again, I don't see them switching conferences. Another reason why, because the Red Wings and the Blue Jackets fought very, very hard to go to the Eastern Conference. and the Red Wings, an original six team that spent many years in the Western Conference and had their own dynasty mostly in the Western Conference, wanted to go to the East because they were in the Eastern time zone. They had to travel so much. between, and it would be too much. It was too much for them. So I think they'd fight very hard for that not to happen. So I can't see Atlanta or Quebec City getting teams until there's relocation, until there's expansion. So at least out everyone from the East. But what the West? Well, when they added the Kraken and decided to move the Coyotes from the Pacific Division to the Central Division, a lot of people speculated that it would be somewhere around that area. So where would they go? The number one choice, in my opinion, and other people's opinions, is Houston, Texas. It's the fourth largest market in the U.S. There's been talk about Houston getting a team for a while. There's a push over there in Houston to get a team. I think like the Twitter account has like 6,000, 7,000 followers. If you're listening to this, NHL to Houston, good job. You might just be getting the Coyotes over there. Now, if they were to go to Houston, will they keep the name Coyotes? It works. There's a lot of Coyotes in Houston. They could go back to the old Arrows name, which is the WHA team, or, that was also the AHL affiliate of the Minnesota Wild. They could do that. That could easily work. Either one I could see happening. And, you give them a natural rivalry with the Dallas Stars. You get a second team in Texas. Texas, the second largest state in the country by population. You still get that southern area that the NHL really wants to take advantage of, and you're in a much bigger city, so it ends up being a net positive for you. But what if it's not Houston? What if, Houston's not interested? I doubt they would not be interested, but let's say they're not as interested. Kansas City, that's been an option that's been speculated for many years. The Penguins were thinking about moving over there. The Islanders were thinking about moving over there. Like, Kansas City for a while for the NHL would basically be like how the NFL was like for teams for Los Angeles. Hey, if you don't give me a new stadium, I'm going to move to LA or something like that. Until the Rams and the Chargers eventually did it. And the Raiders went to Las Vegas, obviously. So Kansas City could get it. Kansas City Coyotes, I don't think that would really work. I think they'd probably change the name, honestly. I can see it for Houston. I think they'd probably change it for Kansas City. And that would give a good rivalry with the Blues, another team in Missouri. Kansas City is a really big area, the Royals, the Chiefs. The Chiefs are going to be the next dynasty of the NFL. They would definitely support it. They also have an MLS team supporting Kansas City. They would definitely support it. That could be like my second option. And my third option for that would be Salt Lake City, because there's some rumors that Ryan Smith, the owner of Utah Jazz, is potentially interested in getting an NHL team. Vivint Stadium Arena, like, they could easily get one. Also, by the way, in case you're curious, if they go to Houston, Toyota Center would be the team for that. And if it's Kansas City, it would be the T-Mobile Center. So in Salt Lake City, it would be the Vivint Arena. And obviously, they would change the name. Salt Lake actually kind of works really well for, in an NHL team because, cold, the mountains. And you have a good rivalry with the Colorado Avalanche. That could be pretty nice. Now, will they do it? I'm not sure. Those three options I think they'd go with. Now, there could be some people throwing out Milwaukee. I'm not really too sure about Milwaukee. But I think if they were to move the Arizona Coyotes, which they will, in my opinion, they will. I think they're going to go to Houston, my number one choice. Kansas City, my number two choice. Salt Lake City, my number three choice. Those are my three choices that I think they'd go to when they decide to move. I think the NHL wants Houston. That's their number one priority right now because Houston is that market. Houston's a massive market, and it's in the state of Texas. They're going to want that rivalry with a team like the Stars, who are in the Western Conference Finals. But for all we know, and if Quebec City gets a team, I can't see it unless they're the only option that's really wanting it. But I don't think it's going to happen this time. Houston really wants it. Kansas City really wants it. Salt Lake City even wants it. I think that's going to be one of those three options. And I put my money on Houston personally because we've been talking about it for a while. And Houston, I think you got a solution. I think you're going to finally get your hockey team for the NHL that you've wanted ever since the Arrows folded with the merger. I think you're going to finally get an NHL team in Houston. Obviously, Kansas City used to have one with the Scouts. They became the Rockies, and obviously they became the Devils. Salt Lake City's never had an NHL team, and I think they would be great for an NHL team. But I personally think out of those three options, the Arizona Coyotes will move to Houston. I don't know if they would keep the Coyotes name. I think Houston Coyotes does sound fine. It could work, but I think they'd probably change the name to the Arrows because unlike the Flames, the NHL likes to change teams' names when they tend to move. Like I said, the Scouts to the Rockies to the Devils. There's that example. There's also the Hartford Whalers, the Carolina Hurricanes. The Quebec Nordiques, the Colorado Avalanche, the Winnipeg Jets, original to the the Arizona Phoenix Coyotes, and of course, the Atlanta Thrashers to the newer Winnipeg Jets. So I think they changed the name, and I think it would be the Houston Arrows. Not arrows, like an arrow in the bowl, like AEROS. Arrows, like aerodynamic plane. So yeah, I think Houston's going to get their long-awaited NHL team, and they wouldn't have to muck up the divisions or anything, and would work better for travel. So people in Arizona, I feel you. I'm sorry. People in Oakland know what you're going through. I've never experienced that personally. Someone from New York, I know that of course, the Nets went from Jersey to Brooklyn, but they're still in that area. And of course, I also know that the Giants and the Jets going from New York to New Jersey, but they still call themselves New York. But still, that's my thoughts, guys. What do you have to say in the comments below? What do you think about the Coyotes losing this, and do you think they're going to move? And if they do move, where do you think they'll move to? That's my thoughts, guys. Take care. Peace out. Subscribe to Zennie62 for more videos like this.